All right, folks, welcome back. This is the final installment of our three-part video series on the Marvel Superheroes Collector Booster Case opening. We will be wrapping up our discussion with the estimated value, how it's looking so far as a set. I'm going to walk through what to expect in each of the special slots in the Marvel Collector Booster Box as well. A lot of people aren't completely familiar with that, even though there's a full breakdown on Wizard's website. And then we'll wrap up with some hot take slash controversial discussion that's currently plaguing the set, as it were. This whole argument about how the set is just losing value, and I think they're really only talking about the play sets versus the collector booster boxes. So we'll get into all that. We'll break down what that looks like. But first and foremost, let's walk through exactly what you can expect to find in your collector booster boxes. So we opened 5 out of the 6 from our case. We are, unfortunately, for all of you viewing, going to be keeping that last box sealed. These collector boosters are quickly appreciating in value. They have a very limited print run. So if you're lucky enough to open them, that's always fantastic. If you're lucky enough to keep some back and save them, they just keep appreciating in value. Now, nothing in life is certain. Anything that can gain in value can also quickly lose value, or just as quickly lose value, and sometimes faster. All depends on what the real world environment looks like at the end of the day. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the different contents. So, I'm going to skip past the regular commons and uncommons. Of course, everyone's familiar with the collector booster series. The first 5, 7, 10 cards, whatever it is, are all of your foil commons and uncommons. In this set, it's a mix between the regular base Marvel superhero set and the Commander superhero set. So, not going to go through those, and we'll try to go through these as quickly as possible. So, first, we'll call it special slot. It's either going to be a common or uncommon scene card, if the camera can in fact focus. There we go. Showing you the Blazing Crescendo. So, in the scene card set, there's a series of commons and uncommons that basically wrap together to create one full scene. I shouldn't say commons and uncommons. I think there's other rarities that go into that as well. But there's a whole set of scene cards that go together in this slot right before your rare. I'm sorry, not rare. The foil full art lands. You always get a scene card, in common or uncommon. It's always in foil. But that's all you can get in that slot. So nothing terribly valuable. It is, we'll call special, but nothing terribly of value. There's so many of those being printed. I wouldn't really expect to see much gain there. Your next slot is going to be your foil full art lands. Now, I just chose the mountains because I need to show the two different types that you can get. You can get what's called the Calm City, and you can get the Chaos City. So obviously the chaos represents some sort of fight that's going on within that land. The calm represents either the calm before the storm or the calm after they've won. I don't know which, but it shows things in a more peaceful setting. So both of these kind of centered around your Iron Man character. That's why I showed these off. Again, Iron Man being my favorite character, I'm going to probably prioritize him as much as possible. Okay, so once you get to that point, you're basically looking at all rares and mythics from then on out. After your foil full art land, you have the chance of getting one of several things. So that we'll highlight these. That's this lineup right here. For the most part, 45% to 55% of the time, you're going to get a rare or mythic traditional foil card. Now, if you do get a traditional card, it is always going to be in foil, I believe. Yes, foil rare each time. So it's going to be foil if it's in the traditional border. Am showing you, if I can focus actually. We did open a Mind Stone, so I'll show that off for the traditional foil slot. In this slot, 45% chance that you get a rare foil, about a 10% chance that you get a mythic standard border foil. Now, the other possible things you can get in here, and some of which I'm not actually going to show on camera because I don't think I actually got copies of them, but you can get double-faced mythic rare scene cards. It's a very low percentage, about 1.5% chance. If we can focus. Camera is going to be my worst enemy today. There we go. So I'm just showing off the King T'Challa. I believe this is the scene art that they are referencing. So we've got that scene on the back. And I believe on this one, since it is double-faced, it does play into both scenes. Then you also have a chance of getting one of the double-faced mythic rare cards, the logo cards. Now, I did not, unfortunately, I did not get one of those. I don't believe. I looked through everything I opened. I didn't see it. Just showing off a regular logo. Again, let's assume this was a double-sided. It's not. But there is a 1.5% chance that you get a double-sided one of those logo cards. And then also you have a chance of one of the reprints from the Jumpstart boosters and a new to Magic card, rare or mythic rare as well. So that's kind of a summary of what you get in that first rare slot. Most often you're getting the standard border rares or mythics. In this next slot, you are looking at the most common card that you're going to open in the entire booster box, which is your standard extended art card. And eventually we are going to focus. There we go. So Agent Phil Coleslaw, of course, was one of our most common open ones. So again, extended rare arts, you're going to open those about 93% of the time in this slot. The other chance that you have to open in that is the extended art mythic rare cards or the borderless face cards. So you're going to be looking at something that looks like this. Now, again, this is going to be a non-foil no matter what you open in this slot. But like these borderless cards that you see here is going to be the style that you have about a 3 to 3.5% chance of opening in this slot. Okay, simple enough. Moving on. So the next slot gets a little bit more complicated. Now, again, this is going to be a non-foil slot. You have a chance of getting several different things. First and foremost, again, one of the most common things you're going to get in collector boosters are the extended arts. In this slot, you have about a 27% chance of getting the extended art rare. You also have an additional 2.5% chance of getting a extended art mythic rare. So those are certainly going to be a little bit less common, but this is by far the most common thing you're going to open in this slot is an extended rare in this pack. Continuing on up the chain, you've got your rare and mythic rare scene cards. So that's about 10%. And in this one, we chose the Captain America Unbowed. So again, that's going to be a full art designed to be part of a total scene. I think they're made of 9 cards. About a 10% chance, or I'm sorry, 6% chance that it's rare, 4.5% chance it's mythic, about 10% chance total that you're going to open a scene card in this slot. Continuing on up here, so I had to kind of layer these. We are looking at Wolverine. So this is their logo card for Wolverine. You have about a 15% chance of opening a rare logo card, and about a 4.5% chance of opening a mythic rare logo card. So in this case, just showing off the rare logo Wolverine, which in general, those have not been pricing as well as a lot of the other ones. The mythics are certainly doing better, but not as much as I would have expected those ones to hold their value. Now, I think as time passes, they will continue to go up, so I'm not terribly worried. I just was kind of surprised, I guess. The other thing that you have a chance of getting in this slot is a rare or mythic rare panel card. Now, our panel card is the one that's designed to look like a comic book or a comic book strip. At 12% chance of hitting a rare in this slot, and again, only about a 2.5% chance of this being a mythic rare in this slot. And last but not least, or at least I'm going to show on camera here, the borderless cards. So these are your comic inspiration style cards. They're going to refer to those as the source material cards. You have a 4%, about a 4.5% chance of opening one of these style of cards. Now, again, they're always going to be non-foil in this slot. So a lot of times these ones don't hold as much value as the foil ones do. But again, I'm seeing the trend just continue to go up with all of these cards. Now, the two things I did not bother to cover in this slot that you can still open, the borderless rare lands, you still have a chance of opening those, about 5.8% chance. And then the borderless scene box cards, you do have a 13.5% chance of opening those in this slot as well. So that should just about round us up to the full percent chance in that slot. The next slot, two potential options here. So you have your either non-foil or foil source material card. So again, some sort of art that probably originated from some version of the comics being reprinted here. Now, again, this is a slot that goes back and forth. It's only going to be the source material cards, but it can either be a non-foil or it can be a foil. So that's the only difference in this slot. You're always going to get a source material card, but it's either going to be in non-foil, 75% chance, or foil, 25% chance. Okay. Now, time for the slot that really makes a difference in any pack. That is going to be the last slot before your art insert cards. Okay. First and foremost, it can be foil or non-foil. No, I'm sorry. It's always foil. Always foil. This is what they call the fun rare slot. And it's really only fun if you hit something other than this card here, Fin Fang Foom. Now, in this slot, you have a chance of opening a lot of different things. The first and foremost, the one that is most common, is going to be your foil extended art rare or mythic rare. Most often, you're hitting one of these guys. Not Fin Fang Foom specifically, but extended art foil. 31.8% chance that it's going to be one of those. So that means you have a pretty high chance of this slot just not having much value to it, which is kind of unfortunate for what you're having to pay for these. But like I've always said, you're playing the odds, so you have to average in. You have to buy more than one. If you're gambling, if you're buying one, you're just gambling. But if you're buying a box, if you're buying a case, you're going to average out and your odds are more reasonable. It's less gambling at that point. So again, 31.8% chance of this being a rare extended, and then at mythic rare, 2.7% chance that you get an extended art foil. Next, you have your traditional foil rare scene card, rare or mythic. So again, just showing off one of those, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. here. This one's just a standard rare in foil. And again, you have a chance of this being rare or mythic. At rare, if you get the scene card, it's 7.3% chance. Mythic rare, 4%. So actually pretty good chance of these getting, you receiving a mythic printing of one of these scene cards in this slot, which is not bad. Okay, continuing on here, once again, you have the logo cards that you can open in this slot. Again, always in foil. The only difference here would be whether or not you get a rare or a mythic. So at rare, you have a 17.2% chance of opening these in, again, in rare, and a 3.6% chance that you open it in mythic rare. Now, without a doubt, the mythics are chasing a lot more value to them. That's not much of a surprise. What is kind of a surprise is just how different those prices are. The mythics are chasing substantially more money than the rares in this case. I assume that's just because of how much is being opened. I'm hoping in the long run we're going to see a lot of these keep increasing in price. Okay. Closing in on it here, we once again have our panel cards. So again, always in foil. You have a chance of opening these. Again, not chasing a lot of value if you happen to open this in this slot, but not the end of the world. You have a 13.9% chance of opening a rare panel card and 3% chance of opening up this in mythic rare. So again, really chasing the mythics on this, but even the mythics on the panel cards just aren't going for a lot of value. My assumption is there must not be a lot of people that appreciate the comic book style arts as much as some of the other arts, which I get to an extent. You know, the Magic the Gathering community is used to a very specific art style that has not really favored toward the comic book styling of art outside of maybe your Secret Lair series. That's probably where we would most be familiar with that. The last one I'm going to go over is the comic book cards. So what they refer to those as the classic comic cards. This is what everyone is chasing. You have a 9.9% chance of opening one of these in this slot. So assume 1 out of every 10, 1 out of every 11, you're hoping to open one of these. Now, for what we opened, we did open exactly one in every single booster box, and that seems to be the going trend, which this substantially helps keep the value of any box that you open. So long as that stays true, you're doing pretty good. If you happen to open a box that doesn't open one, you have really bad luck. That box loses a lot of value because right now these are chasing anywhere from, we'll say $50 at the lowest, the comic book arts that nobody wants, to as much as $250 for the higher end ones. I think Doctor Doom here right now is chasing about $225, maybe $250. I need to look at that price again to see where we're at. But this is what everyone is chasing for this slot. And again, you're only looking at about one of these per box. If you're opening two, you are crazy lucky. Go play the lottery there afterward. So the other ones I did not go over in this slot that you can still get. You have your traditional, you have your foil borderless lands, right? No, I take that back. I guess you cannot open the borderless lands in this slot. So forget what I'm saying. The only other things that you're possibly chasing here is the traditional foil borderless gauntlet version of the Mind Stone, which they're saying are in less than 1% of the booster boxes, which means it's probably significantly less than 1%. And then you've got your textless cosmic foil version of the Mind Stone, which is going to, of course, be incredibly rare. I don't remember if it's serialized or not. I don't think we've even seen any of these out on the market yet. I haven't looked lately. It's only been about 2 weeks since the set released fully. So I'll have to go back and look again, but I know from what I've been searching, I have not seen anything. So that's the bulk of the value that you are looking at whenever you open one of these collector booster boxes. I did want to go over one more thing, which is the art cards in the back. So again, a low percentage of these will be signed. Your standard art cards, they never really command much money value in them. But anytime you get one of the signed ones, in this set, they're actually going for a decent bit of money. So Captain America, as of the filming of this, was going for about $12 each. If you can get a signed version. I was hoping to get an Iron Man, so I'm going to see if I can maybe trade or just outright buy an Iron Man signed art card. That would be great. And then the Black Widow, I think, is going for $5, $6, $7, something like that. So, I know a lot of people tend to just throw away their art cards. If you're getting a signed one in this series, I suggest you hang on to it because it may go up in value here. So that is the basics of what you can open in this box. Now, what everybody is probably dying to know is, well, are you actually making any money by opening one of these boxes? And I'm hearing a lot of controversy out with a lot of other YouTubers and just people out there that have so many complaints about these Universes Beyond sets and how they're losing value. They seem to be looking at this from a very narrow lens or a biased lens, if you ask for my opinion. And maybe you want it, maybe you don't. This is the part where I am going to start rambling a little bit more, and maybe even a rant. Maybe it's even a rant. But first, let's just go over the value here. So, when I bought this box, I paid $24.70 for the entire box. Now, we only opened 5 out of those boxes, so the contents of that total case for the collector booster box each was about $415, let's say. So basically the cost that I'm evaluating as part of this opening was right around $2,048, $2,045 when I did the math. as of the time that I put all the pricing together, that was July 3rd, the total open value of all of the cards that I opened, less all the commons and uncommons, I did not input those. I also did not bother putting in the scene cards or the full art foil lands. I only put in all of the rare, mythic rare, the fun print cards, of course the comic style cards. I did include the 3 signed art cards that I opened. Got a total value of $2,397. So if you're opening a case, it seems like there is a pretty good return on your investment. Now, what I'll say even more so is I've tracked that value, and now we are 1 week beyond that initial opening and inputting of the price. That total value of what I've opened is now worth $2,670. It continues to climb in price. A lot of other YouTubers out there and people in the game community are going to tell you that you need to wait until this crashes because it's eventually going to crash. That has just historically not been true for collector booster series. And really, for any card game that has a true limited print run of any of the stuff that they're releasing, that has just typically not been the case. Unless it is a failing and dying game. Unless it is just a true disaster. Now, if Wizards had come in here and just completely ruined this set, changed some mechanic, and just botched, how they were creating cards, stylizing cards, just did something horrible, which we would know about beforehand because it would be known as soon as they start releasing the spoilers and all that. It would be a different story at that point. But they didn't do anything outlandishly crazy. I mean, all they did was what they have typically done and created some variants. They created logo cards that are iconic to the series. They created a comic book style printing that was just designed to emulate another collectible that's out there. They took off the border of some of the cards, which is, again, not in the realm of anything they haven't done in the past, and all that stuff seems to have appreciated in value as well. So don't be swayed by the people who are out there saying that these sets are losing value. Wait until they tank. Because the other thing you have to note is whether or not there is some sort of motivation involved in what they are saying, or if there is some sort of bias to why they're putting the information out there in general. And I will rebut a lot of that argument in the later part of this video, but let's wrap up what we were talking about here. So, total of what we opened, we opened a total of 300 rare plus cards. Fun cards, extended arts, the comic book panels, the comic stylings, your comic inspirations, art, or no, I'm sorry, not even the art cards. I wasn't even including in that. Your logo cards, any of that stuff. We opened a total of 300 of those, and you're guaranteed 300 of those slots. Or you're in a case, rather, you're guaranteed 360. But of course, we opened 5 booster boxes, so we're going to say 300. Out of those 300, we opened 57 traditional foil rare plus, meaning rare and mythics, in total. So about 19% of all the cards we opened were traditional foil rare or mythic. Mythic only was about 3% by itself. As I mentioned originally, these extended arts. The extended arts are by far the most common thing you see printed in these collector booster boxes, and it holds true for this set as well. We opened 92 extended art rare or mythics. Now, I combined the non-foil and foil in this to just get a total count. I didn't bother separating those out. But at 92, that made up about 30.5% of all the cards that we opened. Now, here's something interesting. At mythic rare for extended arts, again, both foil and non-foil, I only counted opening 3 of those, which is 1% of the total amount that we opened. That means that your mythic extended art slot should or could potentially have higher value than some of these other cards, such as your panel cards or your logo cards. It could command a significantly higher percentage of value just based on how rare those are to actually open. I was kind of shocked with how low those numbers are, but you'll actually see that in some of the others here as well. So, continuing on the borderless classic comics, you know, your Doctor Dooms, your Iron Mans in the comic book style art, those we got one per box. So, 5 in total, 1.6, 1.7% chance, or 1.7% of our total card count. So, oddly enough, these show up more frequently than your mythic extended art rares. Kind of interesting. Continuing on again from there, so you have your borderless source material cards. Now these are extremely high. They are second behind the extended arts themselves. So these were obviously, you know, something they were trying to showcase in this set without a doubt. Those we opened 63, which comprised 21% of our total openings. That would explain why we are seeing a little bit less value being applied to these. But at the same time, I think once these are all out of supply, we are going to see those start to go back up in value, and probably rather quickly, I would think. But I'm just guessing, making some assumptions here. The borderless scene cards. So when we get this back out here, your borderless scene cards. We opened a total of 25 of these, so 8% of our total box opening. Again, those are hit or miss as far as value goes, it seems. I did not bother to break out the mythic on that one, just because it is part of a specific scene series. I'm not so much concerned about the difference in costs there. Then we have our borderless logo cards. So again, that would be things like your Captain America or the Wolverine that we saw earlier. On these, we opened 26 of those as well. So 8.6%, 8.7% of the total box opening on the logo cards. On the mythic specifically, so we did separate those out. We opened 7 of those, 2.33% of the total box contents. So again, a very low percentage there. So obviously the mythics are going to command more value in the logo art cards. Not shown here on screen. I'm not going to bother breaking those out. The borderless lands. So we did open 9 of those. That was about 3% of our total box opening. Lands being lands, we know they're going to be reprinted based on the stance that Wizards is now taking with how they're treating that situation. So I don't hold a lot of stock in land prices specifically. And we didn't bother to sort out foil versus non-foil in those either. The last thing I do have is the showcase panel cards. So again, on your panel card art, the one that's designed to look like your comic book strips. Once again, if we can get the camera to focus, there we go, kind of. We opened 23 of these at 7.7% of our total box opening. Now again, interestingly enough, I just showed you the rare Origin of the Avengers. In Mythic, we only opened 3 of those as well. 1% of our total box opening. So I think we should expect your mythic versions of your panel cards to command a little bit more value than a lot of the other cards you're probably going to be opening. Now, I haven't looked at that closely at all the abilities of those panel cards to know, you know, if that's going to hold true or not. You know, obviously, if we make really bad, you know, cards, performing cards in that slot, it's not really going to matter as far as value goes. But hopefully they have created some power behind the mythic ones, so that will actually command a little bit more value in those. So that's your total breakdown. Again, as far as what I am seeing value increasing across the board. Now, where I think a lot of other YouTubers and you know, Magic the Gathering connoisseurs kind of be biased is they are looking primarily at your play boosters or your set boosters, whatever the hell they're calling them today, which is the wrong way to look at this. When you're looking at sets, trading card games for any sort of value in them, not just cardboard to play and then discard, you need to look at the things that are limited in printing, higher in rarity. When you look at a play booster box, your chances of opening one of those things is slim to none. Your far better odds are always within the collector boosters boxes. There's no debating that. The play booster boxes, in my opinion, have always been generated to help out those that don't have the money to divest into much more valuable collectible versions of these cards, higher perceived value in the art style and things like that. So you get the very basics in your play boosters. To me, opening up a play booster box in Magic the Gathering is like only opening up common cards in any other game that's out there, because the other games really aren't separating out, these highly collectibles versions of the cards from just playable versions of them, tournament legal versions. Um, your your rarity, it holds true because for in Riftbound, for example, you are chasing showcase cards, but you can only get them from one set, and they are specifically that rare. Whereas if they produced a collector booster box of that sort, which I'm hoping they don't, it's just it takes the trading card game to a level where it separates people into multiple classes, and it's just not necessary, in my opinion. I'll always love Magic the Gathering, have a special place for me, but there was obviously a motivation. I won't say what, I won't even speculate, but there was obviously a motivation to diversify on what was being printed and how it was being printed at Wizards in order to sustain a market. And that's why they came out with the collector booster boxes. They wanted to entertain and placate to those that are more collecting and more interested in value, but still want to play with them, obviously, versus those who just want the cardboard to be able to legally play it in a tournament. And there's nothing wrong with wherever you land on this side of the fence, but when people go out there after that and start saying, well, the Marvel set is just absolutely collapsing, but they only look at the play booster boxes, well, yeah, the Marvel collector booster boxes have a limited print run, and those you can measure the supply and measure what's remaining to determine the remaining value. Likewise, in the play booster boxes, you can see that there is just enormous print runs being sent out. You're opening more and more every day, and there are going to be reprint and redistributions of that set. With Marvel Collectors, there just isn't. So again, with something that is so readily and heavily printed, it basically takes it down regardless of whether you put a gold or an orange stamp on it and call it rare or mythic. It basically takes it down to the printing classification of a common card. Yes, it may be a little bit harder to open those, so it may keep its rarity. But take your normal Mind Stones, for example, right? Those were a $60, $70 card. Now they are continuing to go up in value, don't get me wrong. But in the normal printing, it was substantially less than your foil traditionals, which are even more rare in the play booster boxes, or in any of the special versions that you can't even get in your play booster boxes, or at least I don't think you can. If you can, it's extremely rare. So nobody is putting value to an extremely rare chance of opening one of those in a play booster box, when you have the much greater odds of hitting one of those in the collector booster series. Again, to go on YouTube and to tell somebody that the set is crashing because the play booster boxes aren't holding value, they're looking at the wrong perspective from this. You are talking about common cards. And also, the timeline matters so much more when you're talking about play sets crashing, or the card values increasing drastically overnight when somebody comes in and makes a big sweeping purchase. You can't look at these things from a narrow time frame. And again, I'm gonna break out the charts because I think it's warranted here in this situation. Again, we've gotten into the rant, so if you hate the rant stuff, feel free to click off of this video. I'm only going to continue to rant from here on out. But it's just so frustrating to hear these other YouTubers go on here and start talking about how prices are crashing when they're only talking about commonly printed cards. Nobody cares if a commonly printed card that you can have a million of out in the market goes to 10 cents a card. It's happening all over the place in Riftbound. We get all the rare slots. You get so many of them in every booster case. And same with all of the showcase cards that are fixed printings, like your runes and things like that. Yeah, nobody cares if those drop in value. We know that we're just trying to get cool arts out there to people to play. But when it comes to the showcases and things like that, they're not crashing. They're just not. When you go look at the value of your foil Mind Stone, right? everyone out there is saying this should not be $120, $130 card. But guess what? It is. It is. And that is because people want something that is a little bit more collectible. They want different versions. They want to find their stylization that they can play with in their deck, show off in their own binder or showcase, hang it on their wall, go get it graded from PSA. Who knows? Um, but to sit there with the narrow mindset of only looking to play booster boxes and say a whole set is crashing is just categorically false. And it's a bad representation of the Magic community. It really is. Um, Again, if somebody's only chasing for the value, they're not buying a play booster box. If somebody only wants to play the game as cheaply as possible to have fun, you don't buy a collector booster box. And to say that something is ruined or crashing because of one or the other, it's like comparing apples and oranges. If you have a disease in the apples and you say that all fruits are going to be worthless and you're not going to be able to get them anymore, that doesn't mean that oranges are also worthless. Oranges may have more value as a result, and that is more commonly true. So I know that's just a wild comparison, but just in the moment, in the heat of the moment here, in the middle of the rant, that's the best analogy I can give you. It's an apples to oranges argument. It makes no sense. And all you got to do is go look at the charts. If you're looking at the collectibles side of things, you buy collector booster boxes, and the values speak for themselves. There is limited printing, higher rarity. It means the value will typically increase outside of just bad mechanics, outside of bad arts, bad judgment by wizards, we'll say. Of course, yeah, those cards aren't going to be worth as much, later on, or maybe there'll be some mechanic in the future that works with them. That always ends up being the case with a few cards here and there as well. But to just assume that, like everyone said, the Soul Stone shouldn't be worth that much. It's just a rock, so just like the Mind Stone. Well, here's something to consider. So we know, if you've ever watched any of the Marvel superhero movies, if you follow the comics or anything, if you even know a little bit about Marvel, there's 6 stones. We have seen 2 out of the 6. And hell, they could make the other 4 horrible. But what happens when they print the gauntlet that holds them all? I don't know if anybody's actually thought that far ahead. And mind you, it's not just the gauntlet. Tony Stark made a glove of his own that could also hold said stones. We also have only seen a third of the stones. We have 2/3 to go. There may be more stones that are even more powerful. There may be mechanics in the future that use 2 stones to combine to create some epic effect. There could be cards that use 2 stones, like we've used 2 planeswalkers or 2 characters for, like Commander, for example, to create some even more powerful effect. We don't even know what we can do with all of the things that are available to us at this moment within this universe to start assuming that these cards are going to be worthless. Now, here's my fear for everyone that already said the Soulstone was worthless. Don't buy it, stay away. And now they're saying the same thing about the Mind Stone. What happens when these sets are completely rotated? They aren't even printing the regular versions of these. And we find out 5 sets from now that you can combine the Mind Stone and the Soul Stone to create one really powerful effect. Well, now those guys are going to be out 2 cards that they need in order to do said effect that may be extremely powerful in a later set, in a later version of Commander or whatever have you. Those people will be forced to pay the collector booster prices just to get the 2 cards they need to play. And God forbid, if it's not in Commander and you need a full play set, boy, those guys could be just out of luck altogether. So it doesn't do anybody any service to sit there and tell somebody that the set is crashing when we are looking at things through a very narrow lens. You got to look at the whole broader market, and that's true of anything that you look at in this world. And that's something I hope to kind of teach as we continue going through these things. Like I'm having a lot of fun starting out, but at some point maybe we need to get more into the teaching, or just providing some general feedback. I hate to call it teaching because I don't want to be liable for teaching people what they should and shouldn't do with their money. That's really a more personal decision at the end of the day. But I want to make sure that the voices that are being put out there aren't misleading people um, intentionally, let's say. Because I think there's some disingenuity, if that's a word. People are being a little bit disingenuous with what they're saying because I believe there's motivation behind why they're saying it. When you look at, um, you know, Lord of the Rings, for example, the first collector printing of Lord of the Rings, what is it now, like $5,000, $4,000 a box when it was originally 300, 400 when it was first released. Um, People said the same thing then. Oh, don't do it. It's garbage set. It looks terrible. And nobody bought it. Well, some people bought it. They bought a lot of it because it became very cheap. And then it turns out, well, no, people do want it. They just wanted it for less than it was probably worth. Um, but that's just not really how investing works. When you invest in something, and let's just take it back to a normal day in the stock market, you're looking at the value of the company and what it represents. And now that can be so much more complicated than a trading card game, don't get me wrong. But if you don't look at that whole picture and be truthful to yourself and ask yourself, is that really worth investing in? And not just trying to, scam somebody to make it worth less than it currently is, which is, again, it's disingenuous and a disservice to yourself if you are buying that card. It's one thing to get something for value, but it's totally something different to go out here, say all this stuff is worthless, buy it all up, and then pump it up there afterward, which is honestly what I think is happening in a lot of these cases, and it's unfortunate. Um, I'm going to cut it here. We're going to break out some charts, some numbers to back up what I'm saying, because obviously you can't just go by my word alone. So let me cut this here. I'm going to put all this stuff away, and then we will go to the charts and discuss it a little bit more. All right, folks. So here we are, continuing our rant, looking at the charts now. Um, Again, I don't want to spend too much time looking at this. Just want to make sure I'm backing up everything I'm saying with some statistical evidence here. So when you look at the chart of Marvel Superhero Collector Booster Boxes, let's start here. Everyone's saying, oh my God, crashing, Marvel Superheroes is trash, don't buy it, it's going to keep tanking. Well, anyone who is currently saying that, particularly about collector booster boxes, is just not mathematically, fundamentally, or economically intelligent enough to make that distinction or argument. Anyone saying that is looking at a chart that is going down, and this is over the past 3 months, 6 months, whatever have you. Yes, you look at this overall chart, and by God, it is just tanking. It's an arrow downward. But they're looking at it through an incorrect lens, right? So the bulk of our spoilers for this set didn't start until June 2nd, June 1st, June 2nd. And at that time, a box ran you quite right around 470, 460, somewhere in that range, right? The bell curve of volume, which is that chart that you see in the background to the line chart, the graphs in the back, that is your kind of price indicator where you see the volume of buying happening at a certain price point. And by far the highest volume when this product was moving the most, 360 items selling between June 1st and June 3rd. So obviously the majority of the people believe this to be a product worth somewhere between, you can see in the range at the bottom, about $450 to $500 a box. And the majority of people obviously agree with that because that was your highest volume of sales in any period throughout the Marvel release so far. And now it does drop, and then of course it goes up again because price is going to fluctuate until the actual release day. That's just a given. Now, the first part of this chart, and to make this easier, let's do this. Let me just take a snip here. We'll start with this 3-month chart right here. So, like I said, if June 2nd is the start of your, the majority of your spoilers, this is where your charting should begin realistically speaking. And again, even to buy at the beginning of the spoiler season doesn't make any sense to me. Pre-ordering this product, Magic the Gathering in general, has just never sat well with me, because inevitably what happens is, and especially since 2021, let's say, the printings have just been through the roof. So we know that there's just going to be a volume to take advantage of, and people are going to have to move the product a little quicker. The people that are buying in before this date, buying at a 620 price mark, just makes absolutely no sense. They're expecting something that is just not realistic. Yes, in the extreme long run, 2, 3, 5 years, what have you, they're probably making money. But why bother buying at this point if we know that by the first spoiler season or the first spoiler preview, we know we're going to be significantly less than that. And then when you look at release day, we should be somewhere even lower than that. The volume of the printings that are going to get released for sale are going to happen either a couple days or a week before release day, and then the true volume of product available for any Magic the Gathering purchase is not going to be truly listed or available until the release day, not pre-release. You can't technically buy it there. I know we always see a bunch of videos floating around of people who have gotten their product early, or they've gotten a special permission to show off their openings. But that's not the majority of us. The majority of us are buying at the second red line where you should be, which is release day. Pre-ordering the majority of these products just doesn't make any sense, because historically these prices have always gone down. Now, once everything is released from spoilers, once all of the product is released, we get an idea of how much volume there is. Then you can really see how much value you should be putting into this. And what you'll notice on TCG Player, relative to a lot of the other sets, our total sold early in the from the release date is very high, and the remaining quantity is very low, as opposed to a lot of the other sets, which when you go back, that's Play Boosters, when you go back and look at Secrets of Strixhaven, you're right around 3123, but they still have 182 left available. You look at that's the Play Boosters. Oh, I forgot to search up the Lorwyn. Where's Lorwyn? Let's look at Lorwyn. Sealed. Where are our collector boosters? There we are. Okay. So Lorwyn Eclipsed was praised as a great set as well. Nowhere near the total volume. I'm sorry, I should have expanded the charts as well. Let me go back and do that for Strixhaven. There you go. So 5,000 in its total sales, and only 182 boxes left. 5,200 boxes listed on TCG Player in the total lifespan of the product, whereas Marvel Superheroes collector booster boxes, we'll expand that out as far as it'll go, you're only looking at about 3,300 boxes. So there's even less supply of that. And then when you look at Lorwyn Eclipsed, same ordeal, 5,000 total sold. We only have 139 left on the marketplace, but it's only selling for 372 bucks. Now that's not surprising. I don't think Lorwyn Eclipsed was all that great of a set, to be honest. It had some interesting stuff, and of course everyone's chasing the serialized card. That is by no means worth it, again, in my opinion. That may be a hot take, but it's just, if that's what you're chasing, you're just gambling. You're not making a move from a financial responsible perspective. And whether or not Magic the Gathering is a financially responsible way to move your money, who knows? But at the end of the day, if you're chasing and putting all the value in a collector booster box for one serialized card that's limited to a total print of 500 out of 5,000 boxes, 5,200 boxes, yeah, slim to none that you're going to be someone that finds that, which is why when you look at the value on everything else, it's severely depressed, and the total set box, or I'm sorry, the box value is so low, relatively speaking. So backing up to this chart again, these guys that are claiming that the superheroes set is crashing, we're falling to the ground, wait months and we're going to be able to pick these up for pennies on the dollar. Well, anyone that has been through a simple course of economics or just math class in general starting in middle school knows that statement is just categorically false. And we'll chart that out here in a second. But looking back here, so June 28th, June 27th, 26th was our release date. We have 151 sold for somewhere in the ballpark of $436 on average. Moving right along here, you can see we are continuing somewhere between 40 and 80 items sold in any day. And that price is trending upward, reaching as high as, what was it, on the top of the Head and Shoulders, about 474, let's say, on average. 460 for the shoulder, and then we're coming in finishing at 451 currently here today. Now we are going to see that continue to trend upward, and here's why. So we're going to take a snapshot again. So this is simple. Whoop, not that. This is very simple charting 101 for anyone who has ever bought a stock in the history of the stock market ever. What you see here is your bottom of channel and top of channel. You want to measure your bottom of channel and see which direction that's moving. You can very clearly see this is an upward channel. You go to the top of here, and let's say it falls somewhere between the head there. Um, Again, a very clear channel that is showing you that this product has an upward trajectory. It is not falling. And we're only looking at this from the June 26th date and on. June 20, that would be right here, I'm sorry. So June 26th, this back line, when it truly released, and that's why you see the bottom right there, that's because when you see the biggest flood of product on the market, everyone trying to get their product sold the quickest, so they're listing it for the lowest that they think they can and still turn a profit. And the lowest was somewhere about $440. That's as competitive as it got. And then from there, the people that can hold out did, and you're continuing to see that trend upward. Even at the bottom of every single one of these channels, it continues to climb further upward. Now, economics, let's say 102 or 201, the next series of your class, you start learning about the patterns in stock movements itself. Similarly, you can do the exact same thing here. This is a very, very clear head and shoulders pattern that you see here. So head and shoulders is defined by one small hill, one very large hill, and one very small hill again. Now, when you have a head and shoulders, because you have the big arch in the middle and then the two shoulders on either side, right after the last shoulder hits bottom is when you can see some major action start to take place. That'll either be a potential decline, but more often than not, when we are in a rising channel, as I just showed you here, you're going to see a very positive and sometimes a quick moving trend in the upward direction. You can see we're already ticking upward. This will continue to go to the top of this channel. Now, it's very possible that as this channel continues on into forever, it could still move between this channel in some way, shape, or form. And we may be waiting for other price actions or movement, something else, some other catalyst to move this out of this channel. But more than likely, with a head and shoulders formation that is this clearly defined, you're going to see some sort of price action that goes to top channel, bottom of channel, sees that it's got plenty of support, and then it takes off. And again, I'm applying an economic fundamental here to a very simple line graph calculation that's being done by TCG Player to just simply illustrate this product isn't crashing like anybody says. Why might they be saying this? Well, let's look at what I was saying earlier about why you open collector boosters versus play boosters, right? So if you're sitting here saying that the set is crashing, Superheroes is crashing, that's because you must be looking at play boosters, in which if you are, you had people buying in as early as sometime between February 9th and February 15th at $225 a box. Again, why anybody is even considering purchasing this product at that time makes absolutely no sense to me, when we know historically these play boxes sink to $100 to $120 a box in the short term, and knowing that it can be very quickly and easily reprinted at any time by Wizards, so if they so choose. So I'm sure anybody looking at this chart immediately thought, oh my God, we're crashing, we are crashing. And yes, it, by all accounts, on play boosters continues to go downward, and it very clearly has a downward channel. But that's not surprising. As I've already mentioned before, whenever anybody is looking to collect something for value, you're not buying the play booster boxes. the chances of hitting any of the higher rarity cards are slim to none. And I mean, in some cases, it literally is none, because some of these cards you can only hit in the collector booster boxes. So when you say a set's losing its value, you shouldn't be looking at the play booster chart. This isn't an accurate representation of its value. So let's jump over to MTG Goldfish. They do a pretty decent job of showing the history of the set values and all that. Marvel superheroes, okay? We have the first spoilers being shown. Let's see, somewhere around what, June 2nd. I said June 2nd, June 9th. We have a lot of spoilers going on. So total set value was estimated at at its peak 21,000. Now that'll never come to fruition. That is without all the necessary information needed to accurately portray all the cards in this set. So this information just needs to be completely disregarded. And of course, from that point, when everyone's pricing everything excessively high because they have no idea what it's going to be valued at, or they don't want to lose their shorts when they do make a sale, um, they overprice everything. It's on purpose. So when we go down here to the pre-release date had a total value for the set of $8,258.50. And again, I hate to use that because that, in my mind, isn't even accurate. We haven't seen the full product kind of hit the market. June 26th is the date, the release date that I would always use for any of these products. I know the release date here says June 10th and everything. That's fine and dandy. But all the products did not reach the streets until June 26th. You couldn't go out and get all the products that early. So we look at June 26th and on, and it's very clearly, you can see an upward trend. June 26th, we can get back to it, $5,941 for the entire set. Today, that total set is $6,600, $6,601 to be exact. So there's nothing that actually indicates that this set is going down in value. I think this is just receiving either a lot of hate because people don't like the direction that Magic is moving and they want to get back to the way things were when they had a more steady stream of value being pumped into their binders or their collections, as opposed to what we're seeing today. Or the alternative is they have motivation to tell you that it's declining to impact its decline further, or falsely force the product to decline, so as then they could also then themselves purchase the product for a more reasonable price and gain in value. You can listen to anybody you want to on this regard on YouTube, and at no point should you ever take the opinion of any one person, or really anybody for that matter, even myself. Go and do the research for yourself. Chart this out. Take a very simple economics lesson on YouTube. Figure out what patterns you're supposed to be looking for to how products and other investment strategies move, how to correctly, I won't say time the market. You never really want to time the market, but how to correctly know when to get in and when to step out. And just to the point of the set is not losing value. Look at any of the other sets that have come out where they just got the highest of praise. They were seen as, fabulous sets. Secrets of Strixhaven, we have a release date of April, what was it, 24th? So that's April 1st, April 24th lands us right here with a total set value of $1,946. Well, now let's fast forward to today. We're at $1,145. You've lost nearly 50% if you bought the total set. You've lost 50% of your value already. And we have a very clear channel downward. I mean, there is no doubt that is a trend down towards zero. Now, it will never reach zero, of course. These things won't lose all their value, at least you would hope not. But this is a totally different chart than what we see with Marvel superheroes. Take Lorwyn Eclipse, exactly the same, right? So from release day, you were at a total set value of about $6,145. Now you will have turned a profit, but it's not nearly what you would expect at $6,686. What is that? A total profit of about $500, $450. So I don't know where all the hate is coming from these Universes Beyond sets. I know, again, these people on YouTube want to poo-poo the idea that we can't extend beyond this universe. But the fact of the matter is, Magic is quickly running out of ideas of their own. We have developed so many mechanics, so many different strategies, that we're putting ourselves at odds with other cards and sets where things just either don't work or they end up being the exact copy of the card, just doing the function a little bit differently or putting the wording differently, giving it a different art, giving it a different name. We are running out of new, exciting options to pursue in Magic. Now, there's advantages and there's disadvantages to the universes beyond and how they're approaching this. In that same regard, because since there's only so many mechanics you can pursue, there's only so many different strategies that they can take to come up with new ways of moving their product. And the universes beyond is doing well despite everyone's hate for it. It's just something different, even though they are printing cards, mechanics, what have you, that are very similar to what they've always done, or even identical to what they've always done, where they are literally reprinting it and just giving it a new art. But the fact of the matter is, we're running out of new ways to evolve this game without completely breaking and ruining the old stuff that's in there. And that's why also you start to see so many different game style variants be developed. There was a time when we didn't even have EDH, we didn't have Commander. Now you have Brawl, you have Pioneer, you have pre-modern and modern. You have to have so many different versions of this in order to kind of mix up the stylings that are being printed on these cards today. So again, I just want to stress, do not let these people tell you that these universes beyond set are failing without doing the research for yourself. The last thing I'll show you is this. The total set values, I just took these straight from MTG Goldfish. Marvel Superheroes currently has a total set value of $6,600. Secrets of Strixhaven at $2,500, and Lorwyn Eclipsed $6,686. Now, Secrets of Strixhaven has their Mystical Archive set, and that's fine and dandy. I think that's part of the set. You just leave that in there. It's kind of inconsequential to the math that we're talking about here today. Marvel Superheroes does have a one tier one printing in this set, which is the Mind Stone, the special printing that's just going to be worth a ton of money. That's going to completely offset the value of the total set. So what I am willing to do is take that out of the equation. If you take that one card out of the equation, the remaining total set value $4,802. Likewise, Lorwyn Eclipsed, which again, Secrets of Strixhaven, Lorwyn Eclipsed praised as great sets. Look at the total set value of $6,686. Well, their tier one printing is that Bitter Blossom card that is serialized to 500. That one has a last sale value of like $3,700. You take that one tier one printing out of there, that set's only worth $2,900. And you basically need, if you're thinking about collector booster boxes and investing in that set, you kind of have to assume that you're not getting that card. Otherwise, I mean, it's just a gamble. Otherwise, like I talked about earlier, it's just gambling if you're buying the collector booster boxes hoping to hit that one card and make your money back. So just look at the stark differences so far. And even the amount of time since release, you can measure the growth. There hasn't been such substantial growth in Lorwyn Eclipsed or in Secret of Strixhavens, and they have been released for 24 weeks and 11 weeks respectively. Whereas we are at a total set value of $4,800, Marvel Superheroes has been out for a whole 2.5 weeks. So, guys, take everything you hear on YouTube with a grain of salt. Do the research for yourself. Take a critical look at what people are telling you, and more so, try to figure out why they're telling you what they're telling you. I personally am telling you this because I don't want people to assume that just any YouTuber out here is saying something and it's just fact or gospel. Everyone needs to be doing the research for themselves. YouTube's a great platform for bouncing off ideas and building upon each other's opinions, but it is not a great place to find fact, truth, or anything grounded in any reality until you verify it. Until you verify it for yourself, you need to assume that it's false and you need to question it. So go out there, look at the charts, question it for yourself, figure out why these guys are saying what they're saying. Because everything I'm seeing is showing that it's just categorically false if anybody out there is telling you Marvel Superheroes as a set is failing. Is it going to be volatile in the first couple weeks, in the first month, in the first couple months? Absolutely. That's why we're seeing the head and shoulders pattern that we are. Is are you going to just lose everything if you start buying at this value? Odds are saying right now, no. A lot of people believe this to already be worth what, $435 on average, and as supply dwindles, it's going to go up in price. That is simple supply demand economics. Um, so that's where I'm going to end my rant. Again, I just want to stress to you guys, do not take the opinions of any YouTuber telling you that, invest heavily in this, sell out of this all right away. You got to go do your research first and foremost. Make sure that they are telling you this because they want you to benefit the most, not for some other ulterior motive, which I think a lot of these other YouTubers out here have today. So, with that said, like I said, I am not going to rant any further. I hope you guys are enjoying the Marvel Superheroes set. We will probably be switching back to Riftbound for a little bit, getting ready for this Vendetta release. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make any of the pre-Rift events for that, but we shall see what the future holds for us. In the meantime, like I said, do your research, invest wisely, learn, stock movements or something like that. Invest in yourself to learn when you need to step into an investment, when you need to step out of an investment, and more importantly, just go have fun with the stuff you like. If you like Marvel superheroes, buy a pack, buy a box, enjoy it. This is art that we have not seen before, and it's going to be limited in the collector booster cards. You are not going to get an unlimited supply of these like you're going to see in play booster boxes. So go out, enjoy it while you can, and we will see everybody in the next set. Have a good one.